Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the YouTube channel. I am John Kurtz. If you have not clicked subscribe, please do. I talk college football every single day here on this channel. Right now, that means talking conference realignment every single day. I try to give the Big 12 a voice because, frankly, they don't have much of one nationally in college football right now. Please do like and comment the video as well. It really helps me out. Okay, so today we are talking about a Big 12 response to the alliance formed by the ACC, Pac-12, and Big 10. That was reported on Friday night by Max Olson of The Athletic. Now we have reaction from Texas Tech Athletic Director Kirby Hocutt. If you're unfamiliar with Hocutt, this is a pretty well-respected figure within college athletics. He was at one point in time the leader of the College Football Playoff Selection Committee, so you saw him answering questions on ESPN and their show revealing the playoff rankings every single time those came out during the season. He also is a former Kansas State Wildcat and played football for Bill Snyder, so he's got a soft spot in my heart, okay? But I also really enjoy the reporting and the work of Don Williams from the Lubbock Avalanche Journal. And he brings us this story and this interview with Kirby Hocutt, Texas Tech Athletic Director. And it's a very honest, candid response to what's going on. And I just love that. All right, so let's get into it. Don Williams has covered Texas Tech since 1986, by the way. Should have mentioned that. Very trusted journalist in Lubbock. He's clearly somebody that's developed a great relationship with Kirby Hocutt, and therefore Hocutt gives him this story. So says, how does the Big 12, already jolted by the pending departures of heavyweights Texas and Oklahoma, get excluded from such discussions? That being the ACC, Big 10, and Pac-12 alliance. Quote, that's a really good question, Hocutt told the Avalanche Journal, and it's one that you're not pleased about, you're not happy about. But we've got to continue to do all we can to look out for Texas Tech's best interest. Goes on in the article, The Athletic's Max Olson wrote that the Pac-12, Big 10, and ACC haven't expressed serious interest in adding from the Big 12, so working together is a logical next step and appears to be the likely outcome. Asked if that was disconcerting to read, Hocutt told the Avalanche Journal, of course it was. Of course it was. Now, I just love the honesty here, guys. I know you can roll your eyes and say, well, the Big 12 should have some kind of better response. There should be a plan, Bob Bowlesby, pitchforks. But like, this is the humanity of this all. Like, this is all happening very quickly. It's all happening in real time, and everybody is reacting in basically the same way because nobody knows 100% what's going on behind all these closed doors and meetings. And for instance, Kirby Hocutt said he's on the phone 16 hours a day right now, which I'm guessing is not much of an exaggeration. So think about everybody else in college athletics. There's no way everybody can be totally up to speed on what is happening. And there's just so much on the line that, like, of course, you have to be honest and be like, yeah, that's not great. I don't love hearing that. I mean, the alternative to this is some kind of canned PR response or just sitting by silently and saying nothing. But, you know, you could be getting some sort of coach speak answer at a press conference like, you know, we just try and get a little better every day. We just try and do this. I mean, that's so boring, and we hear way too much of it. I very much appreciate the honesty here from Hocutt. And it's not just that it's honest, it's also correct. It's true. It's the reality. Like, there's no other reality for the Big 12. This is not a good thing. So this reinforces what is the obvious take and the obvious opinion. If the other three leagues besides the SEC are working together and you're not included right now, that's not great for your future, whether that's going to be with the Pac-12 or you're trying to find a landing spot somewhere else. It's just not good on any front. So it's just being truthful about what the situation is right now. However, it's not all gloom and doom here from Hocutt, because as the article continues and his quote continues here, he's talking about the conversations between the ACC, Pac-12, and Big 10, right? He says, quote, to what degree those conversations are ongoing is still a question. And you hear conflicting reports on just how far along those conversations are. We're going to continue to pursue every avenue we can, be as aggressive as we can, and ultimately our focus is doing all we can to best position Texas Tech for our future. And Hocutt says he spent 16 hours a day on the phone in recent weeks. But that has to be the hope. I would say don't panic if you are these Big 12 schools, if you're the 8, but what's your panic move anyway? So I guess it doesn't really matter too much if you do or you don't, because the whole idea here is you would be panicking about the fact that you don't have a landing spot. So what do you do if you don't have a landing spot? You can't jump anywhere, right? But essentially, you need to just keep a clear mind and keep an open mind and hope that something breaks down somewhere, whether that's with the fact that there will be 41 egos at the table, because we're talking about 41 different schools between the three conferences that have aligned. We know all the problems Texas caused with their ADs and egos and everything that came involved there. What happens when you get multiple Texases from multiple different conferences in the same room trying to work together? Can that work? Is it feasible? Look, never say never. Something could happen. There could be a breakdown there. Plus, it's just the general wild card that is conference realignment anyway. You never know what's going to happen. And look, if you want to get conspiratorial, okay, if you're thinking about trying to be one of these Big 12 schools and getting a life raft somewhere else, man, let's talk about ESPN, because I've got a video that I'm working on right now to try to just outline the specific vested interest of ESPN in the downfall of the Big 12. But it's pretty easy to trace. If the Big 12 dissolves, ESPN is free of $1 billion, literally, that they have left to pay out on the Big 12's TV deal. So that's a pretty strong vested interest, okay? What's to say that ESPN wouldn't come back around to two leagues in the ACC and the Pac-12 that they have pretty strong deals with, right? They are definitely in bed with as far as TV contracts go, and say, hey, why don't you go try and scoop up some of these Big 12 schools? We'll beef up your next TV contract because we'll wind up making more money in the end if we're out the billy that we owe the Big 12 for the rest of their TV deal. And I know that sounds crazy and conspiratorial, but man, if we're going down the same road that Bob Bowlesby was with his cease and desist letter to ESPN and the evidence that he claims he has, that was supposed to be for basically collusion between ESPN and the American Athletic Conference, trying to say, hey, if you guys raid the Big 12, blow up the Big 12, we save $1 billion, Texas and Oklahoma save some money, we'll kick you some extra money on your TV deal because that's peanuts to us compared to the $1 billion we owe you. That's what's been accused already by Bob Bowlesby. So who's putting it past ESPN at this point, right? So there's a lot that could happen. And if I am Texas Tech, that's what I would be doing and how I would be operating right now if I am Hoka. So I think that's smart. And Hoka would go on to continue to preach more in the way of hope. The article says, even in the wake of Friday's story about the ACC, Big 10, and Pac-12 discussions, Hoka said he still thinks the Big 12 and Pac-12 working together makes sense. Quote, I believe there's an opportunity there, Hoka said. I believe the state of Texas offers so much to other conferences that currently don't have a presence in the state of Texas. You look at the growth of our population, the strength of Texas high school football, the alumni that Tech has within the state of Texas. I can't see how the opportunity to penetrate the Texas borders would not be of interest to people to other conferences. So I think something that currently remains on the table, I think that's something rather that currently remains on the table, and we'll see how it evolves. Great. That's great. If I'm Texas Tech, man, I would be dancing in the streets at how my AD is handling this, because again, you don't want to give up on it. He's still hitting the main selling point that you have, which is the state of Texas. And Texas Tech, again, seems to be the flag bearer when it comes to other places, other conferences wanting to get into the state of Texas because they are the biggest Texas school left and they're not a small private religious institution. So don't wave the white flag. Keep preaching that best case scenario if you're Hoka, and keep all hope alive, not just for the sake of your fan sanity, but just to legitimately keep everybody's options open. And speaking of humanity, right? I was talking about the humanity of all of this in the beginning of the video. Here is another quote that will emphasize that from Hoka. Quote, it's been all that I have focused on for the last, seems like 3.5 weeks now, and it will continue to be. It is all time consuming. There's not anything more important that will continue to be on my plate in the coming months and possibly in the coming years. It's something that has received 100% of my time, consumed 100% of my time, and there's nothing more important. This is a time where you exhaust all the relationships and resources you have that you built over your career. Man, amen to that. Again, like if I'm reading this, if I'm Tech, like that's my AD. That's my guy. Exhaust all those relationships, get on the phone 16 hours a day, and make this 100% your life, because there is nothing that will be more important to the future of Texas Tech athletics and Texas Tech University, and this goes for the other 7 schools too, than this right now. So it has to be all consuming. And that's the part where like, I don't envy these ADs. It's exhausting covering it just from a media standpoint here. I can't imagine being a part of it where you're the AD and everything is on the line to you every single day. So you got to feel for these guys, regardless of how worried you are about your school, regardless if you are an SEC fan coming in here to make fun of everybody else left behind in the Big 12. You have to feel on a human level for these guys and the stress that they're going through, right? I mean, that's tough. That is very, very difficult. But all told, I think that's a really good response by Hoka. We'll see if other ADs are going to speak publicly about this. I'm going to try and do some digging here in the coming week and see what we find as far as general reaction to this alliance. But we'll continue to keep you updated here on the channel as how all of this evolves. So please subscribe if you have not. If you're a college football fan, if you're into conference realignment, if you're a Big 12 fan, I'm definitely trying to give the league a voice right here on this channel. You can also follow me on Twitter at JLKurtz, JLKURTZ, to get minute-by-minute updates and, hey, just some great hot takes on everything, okay? I am on Twitter way too much, so that's a good way to get in touch with me. And you can listen to my daily radio show just by searching The Game KMAN on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, wherever it is that you get your podcasts, you can find it right there. So Appreciate you guys stopping by here on the channel. I will talk to you soon.